welcome back to Asian Pulse. I'm your host, Shivani Naiker, and hope you're having a fabulous day so far. We always appreciate your feedback and phone calls, so please keep them coming. As of September 13th, it is mandatory to download the app of your proof of vaccination before entering any restaurants, gyms, or sports arenas. This app will show many of the doses that you have received of your vaccination, so we don't have a choice but to show your vaccination history. Secondly, schools are open now, and it is mandatory to wear masks from grade 4 to 12. But from grades under 4 and 1, it is optional. Coming up, Camilla will be speaking with Mohammed Abel Abbas. He is the first Indo-Fijian descent. He'll be speaking about the Indo-Fijian exhibit at Surrey Museum.
Welcome. My guest today is Rizwan Abbas, and he just recently have done exhibition, and this exhibition is called Indo-Fijian Exhibition at the Surrey Museum. So I'm going to talk to him and find out since when all these thoughts started coming to him, and why did he think it was very important to do Indo-Fijian exhibition here in Surrey, where the population of Indo-Fijians is the fourth largest, is about 28,000 people living in Surrey alone from the Fijian descent. So welcome, Rizwan.
Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. So talk a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'm an archaeologist. I've been working in the industry as a consultant for about 20 years now.
Okay.
Did you want to know my education?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a bachelor's degree in archaeology from Simon Fraser University, professional specialization certification in collections management from the University of Victoria, associate's degree in arts from Douglas College, and a master's in science degree from the University College in London in the UK. Especially proud of the UCL degree. That school is also the school that Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi went to school as well, so I'm proud to call them alumni.
My goodness, you are very young and you have done all these studies all over the world, seems like it. So you came to Canada when, or you were born here?
Yes, I was born here in a small mining town called Sparwood, BC, in southeastern British Columbia. Grew up there until I was 15 years old. I moved to Surrey in 1993. My father moved to Canada in 1973, and he lived in Surrey for 20 years himself before we all moved here to Surrey.
Mm-hmm. What inspired you to go into this field?
Well, I'd have to say my social studies teacher, Miss Holland, in grade 7 was my inspiration. We learned about early man, we learned about Mesopotamia and Egyptian culture, and early man especially, the Homo habilis, Homo erectus that we studied, I found it amazing to think that there was people in this earth before us that looked kind of like us but not quite, and it was fascinating. And naturally, when I graduated high school, I went to university and did business courses. And after about 2 years of taking business courses, I hated it. So I decided if I'm going to spend all this time and money in school, then I might as well do something that I want to do. So then I went into archaeology and did the courses for my archaeology degree. And I've been working as an archaeologist since.
Because this is not something a normal or every child will think about going into this field. It's interesting how you came up with that and being in school for a while. So talk a little bit about what inspired you to do this museum, Indo-Fijian museum exhibition.
I think the inspiration came from the very beginning, from when I moved here in 1993, I think is where it all started. Growing up in Sparwood, there was quite a large Indo-Fijian community in Sparwood, despite it being such a small town.
Yes.
But even though there was a lot of in Sparwood. So I didn't get to, not until 1993 when I moved here and saw my large extended family, did I get the opportunity to see my culture in full bloom. I got to go to weddings, I got to go to religious festivals, I got to go to lots of different things, you know, people's houses, and I saw something that I had never seen before, and it intrigued me. And after 15 years of living on my own, I kind of had this unique perspective of feeling like an outsider looking into my culture, and I think that that was one of the reasons why I became an archaeologist, to study culture. I think that was the main reason I turned to it. And it took me about 20 years to find my true path as an archaeologist. But when I was, my dad passed away in December, and while he was at the hospital, we had a good chat about my job. You know, my dad's a first generation, or he's an immigrant, came from Canada, from Fiji, so he didn't quite understand what archaeology is.
Yes,
so
I think a lot of people want to.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. It's funny. I get either, oh, I don't know what that is, or you're the first archaeologist I've ever met. I get that a lot. But the study of archaeology is the study of human culture, past human cultures, through their material remains. So whatever they left in the ground, we will dig up, and then we'll analyze that to try to get a better understanding of the lifestyle of these people. And most of these people, of course, aren't here to talk for themselves. The Mayans, the good example of there are lots of these huge temples in Mexico that people left there for thousands of years, but nobody knows what they're about. And archaeologists will come in and will study it, and will be able to get a better idea of how they were built, who built them, and what the culture was like. So that's what I do for First Nations, and I've been doing that for about 20 years as a consulting archaeologist. I've been studying the First Nations culture here in British Columbia. And as I was talking to my father about this and explaining this to him, I came to the realization myself that why am I studying somebody else's culture? I should be studying my own culture. And what really reinforced it for me wasn't that it was my culture that I should be studying, it was my father's culture I should be studying. It was my father's story that I should tell. And
I have his DNA in me.
Yes.
So why not, right?
Exactly. So like his story is my story. So I feel empowered to tell my dad's story, and I feel like my dad's story is not much different than many of the other immigrants who came from Fiji to Canada. They came in the same circumstances. They came in, did just as much work to build a life for themselves here. So through my dad's story, I feel like everyone can relate to their own story, and this is why I wanted to do this. And one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do an exhibition was because I've seen in the past 25 years of living in Surrey, I've seen the Indo-Canadian community grow. I've seen just the term Indo-Canadian is a term that didn't exist in 1993. But now we know that term, it means so much. It means a people, it means a culture, it means so much that we should have our own identity as well. And people forget that Indo-Fijians exist. And I get that all the time. It's like where, you know, people will come to me and they'll speak to me in Punjabi, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I don't speak Punjabi, and they'll get offended because they don't know that I speak a different language. So I wanted to tell the community that we exist, but I wanted our own youth to know that this is our culture. This is what we are. This is who we are. This is what we believe in, and this is how we go about sharing the way our ancestors have built a future for us. And I truly believe that if we can relate to our history, then we can build a future for ourselves as a community. And that's, I think, for me, is the most important thing.
You know, this is the first time I'm listening to you when you're talking. I was thinking about it. Nobody ever calls ourselves Indo-Fijians. So the minute I read about you, about the exhibition, you called it not Fijian exhibition, Indo-Fijian exhibition. Because when we live in a society like as big as Surrey, when all these people are here from everywhere else, and we look the same, nobody ever says, oh, they are Fijian. We are either South Asian or from wherever, whatever. The majority of the people, they start talking to you in their language. And we are very unique, and nobody names it and says it. I'm very proud of you to calling it who we are in the first place, right?
It took me a long time. When I was going to my undergrad at Simon Fraser University, I took a course where we were just talking about theory, archaeological theory, and I was the only person of color in the class, and I couldn't quite convey to the rest of the class what heritage I was, what nationality I was, what my culture was. I couldn't quite put it in terms, and now I can very confidently say that I'm a Canadian Muslim of Indo-Fijian descent, and And the reason I wanted to use the term Indo-Fijian was so we could relate to ourselves with the term, but other people could too. And then, like you said, there's many people out there will call us the Fijis or call us the Fijians or,
Yeah.
or have different names for us because there isn't just a term for us.
Yeah.
And I wanted to introduce the term Indo-Fijian. It's an academic term. It's used a lot in academia, but I wanted to introduce that term for us to be able to
Identify yourself who we are. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, in the past couple of weeks since knowledge of this,
Yeah.
since this exhibit has been coming out, a lot of people are feeling more comfortable coming up to me and talking about Indo-Fijian culture and Indo-Fijian people, and that's what we want. Is we want awareness. We want to raise awareness of our culture and our people in the community.
Very proud of you. Are you religious?
I'm not religious.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you did this research with the First Nations, how do you compare that with us, who are, Indo-Fijians?
That's a great question. The First Nations, the spirit of reconciliation that's been
Yes,
happening with
coming
First
up on
Nations
the
right now,
30th.
it's been eye-opening
Yeah.
to watch the First Nations people own their culture, own their history, and tell their story from their own voices was something that I wanted to do for us.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest reasons that, well, I keep saying everything's a big reason for
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
exhibit, but that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the exhibit. And if you go and you see the exhibit, you'll notice that the exhibit it's not biased, but it's about Indo-Fijian people. It's not about the history of Fiji. It's not about the history of Girmit. It's not about the history of the sugarcane industry. It's about us. It's a story about us. It's a story about our people and about our culture. As a matter of fact, in one of the sections, I have a spotlight of an individual. His name is Pandit Dotaram Sanadia. He was the first Indo-Fijian leader during Girmit times. He was also the first person to write a book to be published, first Indo-Fijian, to write a book that was published. And people like that is who we need to know and we need to talk about. And those are the people, those are the role models that we need our youth to know about, because these are the people that built the future and the foundation for the platform that we're on today.
And I think when you talk about Girmidia and about the indigenous system, so how they came from India, the settlement in Fiji, the treatment that they got, and we have long stories to tell about that. But those Girmitias don't exist anymore.
No.
And it's very sad for all of us that we were not able to capture their story from their own word.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
That now we sit here and we can only assume what they must have experienced or what was the life for
That's
them
right.
was like.
That's right. We've lost a very valuable pool of information.
Yeah.
Lucky for us, there's researchers like Dr. Ahmed Ali, who's written a book called Girmit that documents some of the stories of Girmitias in it. I believe he published that in the early 70s, the first edition. But there isn't very much left, and it's important for us to document our culture through our elders. And right now, the elders that we have left are the ones who are the grandchildren of the Girmitias. They can still tell us stories, even though it's not first-hand stories. They can tell us the stories that were told to them, and it's important for us to capture those. And that's something that we need to be doing. When somebody talks about Girmit days, when somebody talks about the past, the youth shouldn't just be getting up and leaving because they have homework to do. They should be listening. This is our heritage. This is us. This is the reason why we are here. It's because of that.
Yeah, I know. So when you did this and you studied First Nations, and are there lots of similarities between our people and their heritage or their people?
Unfortunately, there are similarities.
Yeah.
And I say unfortunately because a lot of it has to do with colonialism.
Yes.
That's
For
probably
the First Nations in both places, right?
Both places.
Yeah.
It's, and I think we're at a point in history of the world right now, especially in North America, where minority groups in our communities and our cultures are taking our voices back.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to do. It's important for us to talk about our history the way we saw it, as opposed to the way that it was written. And the way that it was written by Europeans, and it was written in a very European-centric point of view.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to start telling our stories the way that they should be told by us.
By ourselves, yes. Who are the best people.
Yeah.
What do you think of Truth and Reconciliation that is coming up on the 30th of this month? Only thing I think is I don't feel there's a stat holiday for that, but all the government employees, federal government people will get paid or it's gonna be a day off. It's not just having a stat holiday. There is so much underneath that we need to unpack, and I think they want to unpack so they can come out and teach us or make us aware of what their history
Yes.
is.
I think that the example that the First Nations are giving us is an example that we as Indo-Fijians should be following ourselves.
Yeah.
We are hearing a lot right now about the residential schools and
Yes.
what's happening in residential schools. But as an archaeologist, I mean, I can say that a lot of these are excavations that are happening that
Yeah,
we're finding
all
of
over,
these
yeah.
bodies. But we need to do the same thing in Fiji.
Yeah.
We need to go to Fiji. We need to excavate the Gurmit lines. We need
Yeah.
to understand how our ancestors lived their day-to-day lives. We've got scattered stories from Girmitias about how their lives were, but we don't have any evidence of what it was like. And I think
Because
we can
nobody
do that.
did any
Nobody-
documentation.
nobody
People
cares.
were not interested.
Yeah, people were not interested.
Yeah.
We were nothing more than coolies.
Yeah,
We're the bottom rung of the social system,
yeah,
and nobody cared about us.
yeah,
And nobody will care about us unless we do. And
Yeah.
that's what that's the awareness that we need to raise as a community. That we matter, our history matters, our ancestors matter, and we need to learn them and understand them, and we need to tell our future generations.
And about the oppression of our people, Indo-Fijians, we have scattered. We left our beautiful country,
Yes.
Fiji. And we went all over the world because we did not see any future. Your dad is here because of the same reason. I came into the country because of the same reason.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, very highly educated people, that could have built Fiji up. But we didn't feel that.
They wouldn't let us.
They wouldn't let us, and we didn't feel welcome living in that
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
Right?
I think one of the lines that I use for my exhibit is experience the story of these Voyager people
Yeah.
as they left India for Fiji to find a home, only to find hardship and cruelty, before traveling to Surrey and finally finding acceptance.
Yes.
And that's something.
It's a sad reality,
is.
but that's the truth.
It's the truth, and it's
Yeah.
sad. It's unfortunate because on my dad's dying day, to his dying day, he missed Fiji, and he wanted to go back. And it was then that I realized how important Fiji was to my father.
Yes.
And of course, if it meant that much to him, it must mean that to everybody who was
Everybody.
there and
Yep.
left. And it made me so sad to think that after the coup in 1987 or after the coup in 2000, we were told, Indo-Fijians, leave, we don't want you here anymore. And everybody who would work and you can't buy a house, or you work and you can't get a promotion. And eventually, what do? When you know that if you're not going to get a future for yourselves, your kids aren't going to get a future, and you have to leave. And these people were forced to leave. And lucky for us that the resiliency and the dedication that our Gurmitia ancestors showed was the same thing that my parents showed. That's the same thing that you showed, leaving Fiji to come here in the first place, to start all over again and look for the same thing that our ancestors did. And that's something that I want to champion. I don't want to talk about the hardship and the cruelty of Gurmit. I don't want to talk about how we were treated. I want to talk about how resilient we are, how strong we are, how despite being put down so much, we still came up to be where we are today. And that's the enduring quality of Indo-Fijians, and that's really what our culture is all about. It's about strength, resiliency, and hard work.
And that's the story we should be teaching our children,
Yes.
our grandkids, the
That's
new
right.
generation.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the sad part about
Yeah.
the settlement of the indigenous people in Fiji, how they were so transient. And from there, like you say, when you come to Surrey, you feel welcome.
Yeah.
This country accepted us.
Yeah.
The First Nation people of this land accepted us. We can buy land here. We don't have to lease the land. We can call it our own. Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in my exhibit, I have some of the artifacts I have is my dad's certificate of citizenship from Canada when he
Yes.
got in 1988, and he was very proud. He was very proud to become a Canadian citizen, but deep down inside, like I said, the very last day of his life on earth, he
Sadness,
still
yeah.
wanted to go home. That was what mattered the most to him.
Yeah. So what is your next project? You have done all this, you brought all of us here up to here. What is next? I can talk to you all day, but what's next?
Well, I had applied for this exhibit with the Museum of Surrey, and
Yeah.
the committee that accepted it, there was I guess somebody on the committee was also a member of the University of Victoria, or sorry, the Fraser Valley University's South Asian Studies Institute.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call a few weeks after the exhibit was accepted, asking if I wanted to write a chapter about the Indo-Fijians for an upcoming social history book that the University of the Fraser Valley is publishing. So I'll be writing a little bit about our culture, and basically what I'll be doing is the exhibit is kind of a introduction into our culture and into aspects of our history. The chapter in the book will actually go more in detail about the circumstances forcing people to leave India to come to Fiji in the first place, some of the hardships and the situation that it was like in Fiji, and then how the culture became the way it is today. And I think one of the things that makes us very unique compared to some of the other Indian cultures outside of India that are in the world is that we had different castes, we had different religions, we had different cultures, we had people from North India and South India all come into this small little island and utobedo with each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
And,
There was so much harmony in
there
there.
was so much
Who
mingling
didn't
and
know? We
talking.
didn't know who is what.
Yeah.
You know, religion was not even. We were just like eating in the same plate.
Yeah, that's right.
I would wait for Eid so that I know my neighbors were Muslims and they made the best Eid and the semai.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
So we did not know. But here I find we are kind of
Yes.
drifting from each other. He's Hindu, he's Muslim, he's such, he's Christian and all
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
And which is a sad reality that
Yeah.
we came from such a small and living in such a harmony, but when you come to a bigger thing that we started, there's dividing and conquer a little bit. I am feeling that.
I agree. It's been eye-opening to see that so many people have been surprised to realize that the Indo-Fijian community in Surrey is one of the 4th largest diasporas in the world.
Yes.
People don't realize how many of us there are here because we're all just so secular and we're so compartmentalized from each other, whether it be from religious reasons.
Yeah.
And even within religions, there's even divisions within
Yeah.
that. But what's more important than that is the 60,553 people. That's the number, 60,553. That's how many Indians landed in Fiji for Gurmit. That's the Gurmit.
Oh,
dance.
that is more important to know.
Those people,
Yeah.
those 60,553 people are the ones that unite all of us here.
Yeah.
And if we can understand the shared history that we have as Indo-Fijians, then we can relate to each other better. We can relate to each other more than we can relate to a different culture or to a different caste
Yeah.
or different anybody, because it's us. It's
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
We're Hindustanis, and that's a reality that it just comes with education. It just comes with knowledge, and we just got to put it out there.
My hats off to you, sir, that you are gone so depth into that and trying to bring out the history that has been buried for what, thousands of years, that we, at least for me and my children, that there will be something that if I cannot teach them or show them how it is, that they can go and read a book about
Yes.
the culture,
Yeah.
that they can educate themselves. Thank you so much for coming into
Thank you.
today, and this is not the end of it. We'll bring you back and we'll continue this
Sounds
conversation.
great. It would be my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. This exhibit says a lot about the Indo-Fijian settlement in Fiji. Have a pen and paper ready. We have some interesting events that you might be interested in. The Fiji Canada Disaster Relief Society, in partner with Fiji Canada Business Association, is hosting the Fiji's 51st Independence Day on October 9th at Kana Banquet Hall at 6:30 p.m. Tickets are only $30 per person. All proceeds will go towards PICS. For more information, call Kevin Chand at 604-562-4569 or Camilla Singh at 604-537-5123 or Andy Chand at 604-825-8261. The Canadian Federation of Fiji Organization is holding their Community Awards Gala on October 24th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. They will be presenting awards such as Community Leader Award, Organizational Leader Award, Innovative Business, and Youth Volunteer Service Award. For more information and tickets, please contact Shannon Permal at 778-709-2953 or Vidya Sharma at 604-941-6427. If you would like to promote your event on our show, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. We have run out of time. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did bringing it to you. If you would like to become a sponsor or to promote your business, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. Before I leave you with these thoughts. It seems when some people talk about compassion, they have the notation that it entails a total disregard for one's own interests. It's sacrificing one's interests. This is not the case. In fact, general love should be directed at oneself. I hope you enjoyed the day, and if you missed our show, you can catch it again at Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. All our shows will be uploaded on YouTube at The Camilla Singh Show, so you can always watch it again there. I'll see you all next week. I'm your host, Shivani Niger, signing off, and thank you for spending the part of your day with us.